In this lesson, we're going to take a look at how to organize your design. I'll show you how to use rulers and guides, how to use the positioning tool. I'll show you some shortcuts to make things easier, and how to lock elements. One of the easiest ways to make your design look professional is by aligning things properly. And some of the tools that Canva gives you for this are the rulers and the guides you can use. As you can see, I already have rulers turned on, so they show up on the sides of my design. You can turn them on and off or show and unshow them by going up to File and going down to Show Rulers and Guides. There's also a keyboard shortcut for this. If you click on this, now the rulers are gone, and I can bring them back like this. Now the unit up here will change depending on what kind of design you have. So I have a presentation, and if you go up here, it'll show you it's measured in pixels. But if you have a different document, for example, a business card is measured in inches, or it could be measured in centimeters maybe, then the unit up here will be inches or centimeters or whatever it is set in. So in this case, it's set in inches. So you see this business card is 3.5 inches wide and 2 inches tall. You can also see here that the bleed is turned on. So it actually starts measuring the card at the dotted line, right? So if I turn off the bleed, now you will see how it starts measuring at the corner. To create guides, you simply click into the ruler, either at the top or on the side, and you can see how the mouse changes to this double arrow. And then you just pull the guide into your design to wherever you want it. Now you can see if I pull it in from the side, in the top ruler up here, it shows me where I'm at in terms of measurements. So right now we're in pixels, so I can align it exactly to 300 pixels if I want to, or 100, or whatever I'm looking forward to. And I just let go when I have it in the right spot. Now I have this guide here, and when I start moving my elements around, Canva will help me align my elements to the guides. So they will all automatically snap into position when we get close to the guide. You see how it snaps onto this. And it will do the same with all the other elements. So this will help me align things properly on the side. To get rid of a guide, I just drag it out of the page and then it disappears. I can do the same from the top. I just grab it from the ruler and pull it down to wherever I want it. And then I can align my elements by snapping them to this guideline. So I can take this one, move it up as well. So as you can see, when I'm moving things around, Canva shows me appropriate guidelines that are available. So there are the purple ones, the purple one that I just pulled into the design, but there are some pink ones that show up every once in a while. For example, there is the center line here, the vertical center line, and then if I move it over, I can see the horizontal center line right there. Now I'm perfectly in the middle of the entire document. But it also shows me when items are aligned with each other. So for example, I have this text box here. Now if I start moving this text box over, it will show me when it's aligned with the one below. For example, if I want to align it on the left, I can just move it over, and now it shows me, look, it's aligned, they're both aligned on the left. I can move it a little bit further, and it will show me when it's aligned with the center of the page, which happens to also be the center of the text box because I just did that. And then if I move it a little bit more, eventually it will show me when it's aligned on the right as well. There we go. So now those two boxes are aligned. So there are some elements in there, some guidelines that Canva wants you to use because they make your design a little bit more orderly. However, this can get really annoying when you have lots of elements on your page and you start moving things around and you want to get it in this perfect position, but it keeps snapping to a guideline or it keeps snapping to another element, and it's really annoying. To avoid this, you can hold down the Control key on your keyboard while you move something around. And as you can see now, I'm holding down the Control key. There aren't any pink lines that show up on the design. So I can freely move my element around without it snapping to anything else. Okay, that is a shortcut, the Control key. Now, another thing that you might want to know about is how to move things up and down without moving them left and right, for example. And you do that by holding down the Shift key. So for example, if I want to move this text box, but I want to keep it exactly in this spot, and I just want to move it down here without moving it left and right. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and when I grab this box now, the only option I have is either moving it up and down, or I can move it left and right, but as you can see, it doesn't really let me move it anywhere else. I can move it only in the same vertical or horizontal position. An easy way to duplicate your content is by holding down the Option key. So I have this element, and this works for any element, not just for text boxes. I have this element selected and I want to make a copy of it. So before I click on it, I hold down the Option key and then I grab it. And when I grab it now, you can see that Canva shows me that I'm making a duplicate. So I got two pink boxes now. And it also shows me the distance between everything. So right now it points out, hey, your second text box is as far from the first text box as the first text box is from those lines up there. So it's just making suggestions like, hey, how do you want to organize this, right? So wherever I move it, there it found another thing. Now it's the distance from the bottom is the same as the distance from the line. So it just constantly shows me like, how do you want to align this? But I'm holding down the Option key to make a copy. So if I let go now, I'm going to have two of those in my design. And this works for any element. So I can even grab this box down here. Before I click on it, I hold down the Option key. And when I drag it up, then I have two of those. Canva usually shows you if there are some shortcuts available if you go to any menu item. So we already talked about the positioning a little bit. If I select my two elements here and I want to align them on the left, I can go to position and I can align them on the left by clicking on this button right here. As you can see, there aren't any shortcuts available for this. So you have to use the menu to find position and then align them. However, there are shortcuts for moving things forward and backwards. And this is something I showed you already. But if we have different elements, let's see, I'm going to put something else here. Let's see, we have this box. So right now, you can see that the text box is sitting on top of that rectangle, of that red box, right? Now, if I want to bring this to the front, I can go to position, and then I have the option of bringing it forward. And now it's on top of this text box, but underneath this one. And I can bring it forward again. And now it's on top of both of them. And I can also move it back. And now it's all the way in the back again. And Canva shows me which keyboard shortcuts I can use here. So it's the command bracket ones, and you use the opening bracket or the closing bracket to move it forward or backward. So that's an easy way of speeding up how you work in Canva. If you use those things a lot, you will remember them. In the beginning, you might have to look them up, but if you work a lot in Canva, those keyboard shortcuts can really speed up your work. Another thing that might be interesting to know about is being able to lock elements. So, for example, I have this box in the background here. And if I put it like right behind these text boxes, I can't really get to it anymore. Because now whenever I click on something, I will click on the text box first, right? So I can't really get to the red box behind it. One shortcut to get to this is instead of moving the text box away, which is kind of annoying because you want it exactly in that spot. Let me change the color on this a little bit so we can see it better. Let's make it black. So I could move this text box over to get to the red box, but I want it exactly in that spot, and I don't want to have to, like position everything again. So I can just hold down the command or control key on my keyboard and then click through all the way to my box. So right now it's just the two elements, right? It's the text box and then there's the red box in the background. So I only have to click once to get to the red box. And as you can see now that red box is selected and I can make my changes, whatever I need to do. So again, you can hold down your command key and it will cycle through all the elements that are on top of each other. So I click once and now I have the text box selected. I hold my command key, I click again, and now it goes to the next element that's below. In this case, that's the red box. Now, if I don't want to do this every time and make sure, I don't move the text box while I want to work on that red box, I can lock this text box in place. So I click on the text box and I go over here and find this lock. If I click it once, it gives me the option of locking it in place, but I can still work on the content. So now I can't move it around. When I click on it, I can't move it, but I can still go in there and change the text if I need to. If I want to avoid that as well, I can click on this lock again, and now it's completely locked. I can't make any changes, but I can reach the elements behind it. So when I first click on it, it will select the locked item and it gives me the option of unlocking it by clicking on the lock up here. So this just shows me that this can't be edited, that this element is locked. So I will have to go up here and unlock it to be able to do anything with it again. But once I clicked on it, I can draw a little box, to a selection box, if you will, and it will select the item behind it. And now I can just click on that item and drag it wherever I want to. And the text box that I have locked will not move because it's locked in place. Locking elements is also super helpful when it comes to photos. Let me show you what I mean. So let's use a grid here and let's drop some photos in here. So let's say we have some Halloween theme going on here. So let's say we got these photos and now we want to add another element here, like some spider web, for example. So I add my spider web, but when I start moving it around, you can see how Canva just moves it into those photo, into this grid, into the photo sections, replacing the pictures that are in there. Now, I don't really want to do that. I just want the spider web on top of everything. But I can only do that when in between the pictures right here. So to avoid that Canva replaces the image and puts the spider web inside these grid frames, you can lock the grid and make sure you click it twice so it's completely locked and the content can't be replaced anymore. And now I can just grab my spider web here and I can move it on top and wherever I want it without it snapping into the frame. So this can be super useful if you want to layer things on top of each other, especially on top of photo frames or grids, and you don't want Canva to put the picture inside the frames. You just lock them underneath and then you can move things around freely. There's one more thing I want to show you about positioning elements, and that is Canva's tidy up option. So let me create a new page here. And let's say we want to create some kind of bar chart. Canva has an option for that, but we're just going to create our own here. So let's say we want these elements to all be spaced evenly and evenly, get bigger at the same distance. So we want it just to be spaced really well. Now, I can eyeball it and it'll look like this. This one's probably too high, but I want to show you what Canva does. So this is what I want to create basically, right? I want to create like like equally rising bars. So if I select all of them and then go to the position and tell Canva to tidy it up, Canva will just choose whatever Canva thinks might be something you want to do. So in this case, it will all line them up at the top or at the center probably, and it will space them evenly. So that it did right, but it's not really what I wanted to do. But I wanted to show you the tidy up option. Honestly, it's not something that I use a lot because it's kind of random the way Canva tidies it up, right? It's not necessarily what I want. So I just prefer telling Canva what I want. And in this case, it is spacing them evenly horizontally. So I'm going to do this first. So I want the same distance between all of them. And for this, I need to have the first one in place and the last one in place. So if I put the first one over here and then select all of them, Canva will always space them evenly between the first and the last selection that you have. You see that? Now it's spaced it evenly again between those two. But I also want Canva to space them evenly vertically. And that also means it spaces them between the first one and the last one I have. So between this one and everything in between. So I'm going to select all of them. And these all have the same size. That's important. If the elements have a different size, you will get wacky results when you do this. And then I go to position, and now I tell it to space them vertically. And now they're all spaced perfectly. So if I change the first one again, and then select them all, it will adjust that position for the ones in the middle. See, now they're perfectly spaced again.